Welcome to the Telesummit. Your wait is over, post-menopausal women scaling back. And during this series of conversations with experts on menopause and weight loss, I've interviewed several experts, and I'm very happy to present them to you with the empowering information that they will impart, and so that you can drop that excess weight if that's what you choose to do. And I'm your host, Jean Natre. And today I'm talking with Kristy Arbon, and she is a meditation and self-compassion expert. And those things are very relevant to taking our power back and dropping the weight that we don't want anymore. So welcome, Kristy. And
lovely to be here, Jean.
Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into meditation and self-compassion and whatever else you'd say. I think you have a story there.
I have a little bit of a story. So yeah, I've been meditating for probably around 25 years. Meditation's been a big part of my journey. About 10 years ago, I'd been meditating, but I still had this fierce inner critic. You can meditate and still have a fierce inner critic. Quite a perfectionist, A-type personality. I was a manager, had that managerial type personality. I would get very stressed if things were not just as I thought they should be. And about the same time, I went into early perimenopause in my late 30s. So I had all sorts of things happen to my body. I had adrenal fatigue, my thyroid went crazy, my hormones went out of whack, and I was stressed as well with my job and my life. So everything was happening all at once. And it's probably no coincidence that all those things were happening at the same time. So around about that time, I had to take stock of what was going on in my life, and I started to practice self-compassion, basically. So as well as having all the medical stuff, dealing with my health stuff, I started to tend to myself, my psychological and emotional well-being. So I started to bring in the warmth of self-compassion. And that basically means, as well as being aware of my experience, which is what mindfulness does, I started to bring some kindness, a sense of common humanity. I wasn't the only person having these sorts of experiences, and awareness that there was something that I could maybe do about these things. So bringing in self-compassion to my mindfulness practice, working with my health issues and all of the emotional stuff that goes with entering perimenopause, and the confusion and the shame and the all the rest that goes with that. Working with all of those over a number of years, and as I warmed up that conversation with myself through self-compassion, it helped me to see more clearly what I needed to actually take care of myself. I needed to stop being so hard on myself. I needed to stop working so hard. I needed to get into relationship with that inner critic so that it would stop beating me up. So all of these things started to happen when I started to practice self-compassion.
And is self-compassion something that you bring about during meditation, or is this a kind of practice that's outside of meditation, or both?
It's both, actually. Yeah. So we can bring in self-compassion practices to a meditation to help us tend to ourselves. We might call that a formal practice, a formal self-compassion practice. But there are also a number of ways we can bring in self-compassion outside of formal meditation. So just in the, you're standing in the line at the supermarket and something happens to you that makes you feel uncomfortable. I know a lot of my peers are having terrible time with hot flashes. So, standing in line at the supermarket, feeling physically uncomfortable, you can bring a little love to yourself in the middle of that experience. So this is what we would call a informal practice.
So that sounds like a form of mindfulness as well. And so that when we, for instance, have that signal of a hot flash, we can bring self-compassion. And what do you actually say to yourself during that time when you need to flood yourself with compassion rather than hot flashes?
Yeah. So you can use the onset of a hot flash as your little signal. All right, time to practice self-compassion. It's a really lovely way to practice self-compassion. So it's like your little mindfulness bell. You start to feel that the heat. Okay, time to tend to myself. And then there's a really quick little self-compassion practice, and I can lead you through it now if you like. It takes like 2 minutes, and you can do it silently. No one even needs to know that you're doing it. All right, so let's try it. Okay, so I invite you to bring to mind something that feels uncomfortable, where there's some stress, a little bit of pain, anxiety, something that you regularly deal with, or that you're dealing with now. You might even like to close your eyes as you bring this to mind. So it could be a health symptom. It might be maybe a struggle you're having in a relationship, a struggle at work, feeling bad about yourself because of your weight or your health. And just getting in touch with how it feels, how that feels to experience that stress, that emotional pain, feeling it in your body. How does your body feel? Maybe there's a tightness in your gut or tension behind your sternum. Sometimes we feel it in our throat or in our head, in our shoulders. Where are you feeling that emotional pain? And as you're feeling it, acknowledging and validating it by saying to yourself, this is a moment of pain. This hurts right now. I feel stressed right now. Ouch. And then saying to yourself, this kind of pain, stress, tension, everybody experiences this sort of thing. I'm not alone in my experience. My friends, my family, other women, all experience something similar to this. And then putting your hand maybe on your heart, feeling the warmth of your hand, the gentle pressure of your hand. And saying to yourself, may I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself a break. May I forgive my body. And just notice how you feel right now. And you can transition out of that little practice. So that one is called the self-compassion break. What it means is taking a break from the experience that we're having, from the difficulty, the inner critic, the embarrassment, the shame, whatever it is that we're feeling. Taking a break from that, giving ourselves some self-compassion in the moment. And that was designed by Kristy Neff, who's she is the leading researcher into self-compassion.
Oh, what's her name again?
Kristy Neff.
How do you spell that?
She's KristinNeff.
Okay. Just in case.
She wrote a book called Self-Compassion.
Okay, great. So it sounds like practicing meditation or this wonderful little exercise you gave us or practice would help to take us out of fight or flight. And
Definitely.
then what does that do to the body when we get out of fight or flight?
Right. So when we're in fight or flight, we're experiencing cortisol, adrenaline, all these stress neurochemicals in our system, chemicals that help us to fight or run away. Basically, that's what fight and flight is. So when we tend to ourselves, when we give ourselves love, when we put our hand on our heart, remind ourselves that we're not alone, bring mindfulness to our experience, we're doing the sorts of things that a caring person would bring to a child, to a friend, to someone they cared about. We're actually being our own best friend there. And you know what it's like when you go to a dear friend, you tell them you're having difficulty, and they give you their full attention, their full non-judgmental attention. They let you know they care about you and they offer you kindness. We can do that for ourselves. And this releases the tend and befriend chemicals, the nurturing chemicals like oxytocin and opiates, those feel-good chemicals that make us feel that we belong, that we're loved, and that we're okay, basically.
Right. All right. So good. We love those good feeling hormones.
Yeah. And good feeling hormone. Sorry.
The fact that we can actually bring them up ourselves, I think is important, and it's very empowering.
It is very empowering. Yeah.
Once you start doing this kind of thing, you'll get into probably a rhythm of understanding you can do it. And because it feels good, you're going to more easily go back and do it.
It's so empowering. We may have thought we had to rely on other people to tell us those things or give us those things or encourage us. We actually can be self-sustaining in encouraging ourselves, being our own best teacher, our own wise, compassionate friend. This is all internal to us.
Right, exactly. So we have the power, and so often we don't recognize that as much as, at least I feel that it's there, and these practices really help quite a lot. So so you addressed the psychology of what was going on with yourself during your early perimenopause. And how did you do that, Kristy?
Well, there are a number of practices, self-compassion practices. There's a program called Mindful Self-Compassion, which is similar to things like mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. So there's a whole program that teaches you the science, the theory, and practices around self-compassion. So I started to practice those things. I did the program a number of times. I actually became a teacher in the end. And I would, in my meditation practice, so my formal practice, I would bring in more kindness to my experience. If I was feeling pain as I was meditating, often we feel pain in our knee or our back or our neck, I would tend to myself rather than just saying, well, we call it white knuckling it through. It's like you're grabbing the edge of the meditation mat. I'm going to make it through to my 45 minutes. I'm going to get through. Rather than white knuckling it through, I actually gave myself a little kindness. And what that did is, this is like a fight, flight, freeze response. It's stressful. When I brought in kindness, it released that, and I would then sit for the rest of my meditation, offering myself some love and kindness. And that might be simply in the way of words that I might say to myself. I might be saying, may I feel healthy. May I feel happy. May I feel grounded. May I feel at ease. I might just repeat words like that to myself, which are very kind and nurturing. Or I started to make decisions to stop meditating sometimes when I felt like it wasn't serving me, when I felt like I really did need to get up, I really was in some pain. Mm-hmm. So self-compassion gave me permission to make decisions that were good for me rather than feeling like I need to sit there and do the thing that I thought I was meant to do. So it brought in what we might call a choice point. I actually have a choice here to stay meditating with self-compassion, or to get up and do something else, go for a walk or something like that, something physical.
Oh, that's really great to know, because I know a lot of times with myself, I would have to white knuckle that meditation.
Yeah.
Because I should be doing this, and because it's supposed to be really good for me. But in the meantime, presumably adding more stress to the body because I was resisting what I really wanted to do. So.
Yeah, and anytime we deny our body what it needs, so anytime we white knuckle it through, there's got to be some sort of relief valve released somewhere down the track. And this is, I think, where things like eating, comfort eating, come in. So if I've white knuckled it through my meditation, I'm probably white knuckling it through a bunch of things like meetings and relationships and all sorts of things where I feel like I should be doing particular things. And what happens later when I get, into a private space, then I'll get into that pint of ice cream, because I need to just release some of that. I need to have some of my needs met. And so what the body says is, I'm really sick of being disciplined and not being listened to. I want you to get me out of here, get me into something escapist, like food, basically. Food is love. It's a way of feeling love, but it's a way of escaping to feel better about ourselves. It's not really about tending to what I actually need.
And we really need to tend to what we need. Otherwise, it's going to persist.
Yeah, what we resist persists, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is one of the lovely things about self-compassion is, if I have self-compassion, if I can bear to be with my difficult emotions, like in that little practice that, this is a moment of pain. Pain is part of being human. May I be kind to myself. This gives me emotional resiliency. I can be with my difficult emotions. I can stay with my body when I'm feeling bad. I can notice when my boundaries are being crossed, or when I'm looking to I'm white knuckling it through. I can see these things and I can make some better choices for myself, rather than ignoring my body and then having to later go to, food or online shopping or whatever it might be that we do to try and escape our body. Because if we can't get into a relationship with our body, if we can't be kind to it when it's having difficulty, really the other choice we have is to escape it when it's feeling difficulty. So yeah, if we can't be with it, we're going to do the escape thing because we can't be with it, basically. We don't stay with a situation that we don't have the tools to be with. So we get out of there, basically. It's very common to get out of there.
Sure, that's just human nature.
Definitely.
When we, if we become more mindful, just like during our day-to-day activities, does that allow for more wise choices, or not just going for that half pint of ice cream kind of thing, if we're more mindful about our feelings and what we're doing and how we're relating to what we're doing and the people?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So there's sort of a process, sort of a 3-step process that we go through. So mindfulness is the first step. We can't do anything about a problem unless we can see it. Mm-hmm. So getting some perspective, bringing some mindfulness in. The second step is tuning into what we really want for ourselves, like our core values, what's important to us. Most of us want health for ourselves. We want good relationships. We want a healthy body. We want to look in a particular way. We just, maybe even attractiveness is a core value that we have. Mm-hmm. So we all have these core things that guide us in our life. So we tune into that. And certainly with things like losing weight and health, we're guided by a core value, something that's important to us. And these things sometimes are not that apparent to us. So sometimes we need to sit down a little bit and say, hey, what is important to me? What are my core values?
Yes.
And, I mean, health is a great core value. It's a great motivator for doing healthy things, basically losing weight, exercise, all of these things. So the next step after that is possibly the most challenging, and that's that learning to be with ourselves through our difficult emotions and having some tools to take care of ourselves, basically. So a self-compassion practice would help us to do that. Bringing in curiosity. What's going on here?
Yes.
When
Yeah.
I go for that pint of ice cream, what's going on here? Oh, look, I'm escaping my body. It's painful to be here. That's what's going on. So we learn about, why am I doing these things? Why am I laying on the couch rather than going for a walk? Why am I making this choice rather than that choice?
Or maybe
So
what am I avoiding? The feeling.
what am I avoiding? Definitely. What am I avoiding feeling? Yeah. So this curiosity is the big piece. Curiosity and collecting some tools to take care of ourselves. Curiosity alone is not going to do the job. We need tools once we get there. We need self-compassion, mindfulness, seeing a therapist, having a coach, reading a great book that's got some great practices in it, journaling. All of these things are great ways to process what we learn here.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, this is such interesting stuff, Kristy.
Great.
I know you have a free gift for us. Why don't you tell us what that is, please?
I do. So I have a website and an email list, and I send out emails once a week to my tribe, to the Heartworks tribe, and I send out an article about self-compassion practice. So if you sign up for my email list, I'll send you out an email once a week, and I'll also give you access to a video on how to start to work with perfectionism, how to start to get curious, and some tools about working with perfectionism. And perfectionism, really, it doesn't work because there's no such thing as being perfect. It really just tends to move us towards beating ourselves up and looking for an escape route. So how do we start to work with perfectionism? That's the free gift.
Cool. Thank you for that. And we've been talking with Kristy Arbon today. And so viewers, take a look at your inbox tomorrow morning for a couple of more interviews, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.